think some of his timing is askew. Like, some of it is just not making sense. Like him buying a truck at 9 years old. Girl, get out my face. Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com for these JT RZA shades. We have them in black and brown. I'm not sure how many pairs we have left. I think we got 3 in the black left and 2 in the brown left. So go on over there to the uptopbeauty.com and check it out. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes you, can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about Taking My Name Back by Ike Turner. It's some shenanigans in this book, okay? And I'm going to start calling it. As a kid, I was also crazy about women in short dresses who spun their batons in the parade in Clarksdale. I remember sitting on the steps of the church watching and eating my first hamburger. I'll never forget that taste as long as I am black. The majorettes excited me. I guess this is why I started mini dresses with the Ikettes. I was thinking about those majorettes. I was crazy about legs. Remember, my mom had me at 15 years old. So basically, I grew up with her. My mother was a majorette at Roosevelt. We both went to the same DC public school, high school. Matter of fact, it was like a legacy. My aunt graduated from there. I graduated from there. My mom graduated from there. Okay, so my mom was a majorette there. Then when she went on to go to UDC, my aunt, my mom, and me got our degrees from UDC. She went on to be a majorette at UDC also. So the Cherry Blossom Parade was always a big deal because I loved watching my mom in the parade. Subconsciously, I made the Ikettes like the majorettes, and I made Tina Nyoka, but I didn't realize any of this at the time. I never really paid attention to the image I had created on stage. After Tina and I broke up maybe a year or so later, man, I was looking at a film of us on some TV show. There were the Ikettes on stage with their short skirts real wild, just like the majorettes, but without the baton. Tina in the cut-up gown was the woman swinging through the jungle. I see Ike Turner's vision, and he made that shit come true. Now that we're up to page 30, and we're past all the childhood shenanigans with him and all the women's, I can see how delusional he is, because I'm like, how in the world do you think that's cute? That's not cute. And it shows a sense of insecurity to me. Why you got to keep talking about all the women you knocked down from the age of 6 or 7, something like that? That's not cute. You know, I mean, you can share your experience, but it's not coming from a place of a I can see him having that spirit as a child, but he's writing this book as a grown man. There's nothing in this grown man writing this book saying that he was a victim. It's more so coming from a place of pride and ego. My job as a lift attendant at the Alcazar led to my first job in the music business. There was a radio station, WROX, located inside the hotel on the 2nd floor. The announcer was a white guy called John Priscilla. When I got my breaks from the elevator, I would run up there and watch him playing records through the window in the control room. Finally, he said, "Hey, come here." I suppose he got used to seeing me standing there all the time. I went inside the room and he showed me how to cue up the record. You queued up the record to where it started and held it with your finger until the other one ended. And then you just had to lift up your finger. He also used to show me the cartridge with the commercials. Then he would go downstairs to Hager's drugstore across the street to get coffee and shiz. After some months, the station manager came and caught me in there. I thought John Frisilla was going to get fired, but after the manager saw how well I did it, he gave me a radio program. So now I was a disc jockey. How old is he with this? Because I think some of his timing is askew. Like, some of it is just not making sense. Like him buying a truck at 9 years old. Girl, get out my face. You 9 years old. You a grown man and you butt like maybe 5'5", 5'6". So how tall are you at 9 years old where you can touch the pedals on the floor at 9 years old? And as a grown man, you 5'5", something like that. You and Lil Uzi Vert about the same size. Come on. Later, B.B. King had his own show on WDIA in West Memphis. And Ike worked there too. But as a youth on WROX, I enjoyed a wonderful exposure to all kinds of music. In those days, record companies simply mailed all their new releases to the radio stations. There were no playlists and no special programs. The DJs simply played whatever took his fancy. And when they stopped letting the DJ play what they wanted to play, and it became like a list, you got to play this song 100 times, you got to play that song 2 billion times a day. It's a gazillion songs in the world. Why the hell do I keep hearing this one song every 10 minutes? And that's when I stopped listening to the radio. I'm like, it's a scam. At Ike's senior school, Myrtle Hall, they had a school band, but Ike could not join it because he did not play a bass instrument. Instead, he and some other pupils formed a band called the Top Hatters, which played concerts and dance clubs. When we had the Top Hatters, the first thing I learned, man, big band stuff. Glenn Miller and Harry James, all of that music. The band was reading it from sheet music. They thought I was reading it too, but I was playing it by ear. I would listen to the record and learn the part at home. So when I'd come to a rehearsal and they put a sheet in front of me, they thought I was reading that shiz. Anyway, I shook my way through it. Ike's friend, Clayton Love, a trombone player with the Top Hatters, could read a little bit and realized that Ike was winging it. But it didn't matter. Make no mistake, he says Ike Turner is a genius. Soon, both of them were fed up with big band music. The Top Hatters stayed together for 6 months, maybe a year, and then they broke up into two groups. The jazz faction called themselves the Dukes of Swing. To outdo them, the bluesmen, led by Ike Turner, dubbed themselves the Kings of Rhythm. So part of the group went their way and started playing jazz. We started playing whatever was on the jukebox, whatever the people wanted to hear. Soon we started playing gigs all over Mississippi. Marks Friars Points, Batesville. We even played Tankin, Mississippi, the late King Curtis's hometown. I don't want to sound egotistical. Too late. I don't want to sound egotistical, but there are times when my band can be playing on stage without me, and when I come on and they know I'm there, the vibes from my body can change the whole sound in the room. I also sang with a cappella group, a barbershop quartet. First machine that lets you make your own record came out. You bought a blank vinyl and you put it on the machine and sang in the microphone, and it cut a little record. Well, mama bought me one of the first ones to come out, man. We sounded like Boys to Men with me singing lead. WROX played another key role in Ike's musical development. It was only a matter of time before he hooked up with Robert Nighthawk. Robert Nighthawk had just recorded the song Sweet Black Angel. At night, at that time, I used to roll up blankets and put them under the counterpane to fool my mother that I was in bed asleep. Then I'd climb out the window, go to dances to meet girls and listen to music. After a while, I felt I was a grown man. I left home because I was smelling my pee, as Mama put it. I moved over to the Riverside Hotel. Robert Nighthawk stayed there, and Ernest and I would help him carry his instruments over to the radio station. He didn't know we could play piano at all. We just used to carry his amplifier and guitar just to be around musicians. Eventually, Ernest and I contrived to have Robert Nighthawk hear them play. Ernest and I both started working as musicians for Robert Nighthawk. We played the drum and the piano for him in the local roadside joints. Our hours were long. We used to play out at Marks, Mississippi, and we would start at 8 o'clock at night and not get off until 8 o'clock the next morning. We got $11. There wasn't no intermission. If the drummer had to pee, I would play drums until he returned. If I had to go, they would continue to play till I came back. There were no breaks. We just switched around. If either of us saw a good-looking girl we wanted to screw around with, we would have to pretend that we needed to go to the outhouse so that we could sneak outside with these hot girls and screw. Both Ernest and I managed to do so quite often. Okay, so anyway, pause. If you don't know the concept of go-go music, you know that's my favorite genre. Okay, then it would be funk and disco coming in at a second, right? But the concept to go-go is that the music just go, 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 go. There's no break. I was getting more grown women playing with Robert than I would with the kids. Robert had some fine women, grown women, you know. I was still playing with the kings of rhythm, but I was playing more with Robert because he had most gigs. See what I'm saying? He's a grown man. He's not coming from a perspective of I've been taken advantage of by these women. So this is my thing. Reflecting back as a young girl who was enamored with the street dudes, I can honestly say to you that them old men took advantage of me. Oh, I know that I was ready and willing at the time. When a 23, 24, sometimes 30-year-old man found me attractive, I thought that it was flattering. When in reality, that shit was ridiculous. And I can say that as a grown woman. And I should have been messing with boys that were my own age, but the fact of the matter was the boys that were my own age didn't do for me what that older guy did for me. I didn't know that he was a moneymaker. Okay, I didn't know that when I met him. And back in the day in DC, men found hairy legs very, very attractive. I always had hairy legs, and they were always big. I ain't had no ass then. But I always had big, hairy legs, and men thought that that was the sexiest thing in the world. So one day, I was coming from 640, the 640 side of Morton Street to the 700 side of Morton Street, where I lived. And this guy in his BMW with a monkey in the passenger seat was like, hey, look, I'd like to take you out on a date. Can we go out? I'm not thinking that he is older than me. I'm not thinking about age when I meet this guy. I'm just thinking, okay, he has a really, really nice car, a monkey in the car. I really don't want to, be in a car with that monkey when we go out on a date. But I was enamored. I go talk to Mick, and Mick is like, oh my God, girl, I was trying to talk to you. He got the monkey man was trying to talk to you. Yes, Nay, I know that man. He's a mover and shaker. He wants you. You need to get with him. We went out on the date, and he showed me a very, very good time. All right. Then we went out probably like 2 or 3 more times. Then he disappeared. Okay. For real, he disappeared. Okay, come to find out that his ass went to jail. Okay, for doing some illegal shit. right? And then when I got in contact with him years later, come to find out, motherfucker was 10 years older than me. I think I was 16 or 17. He was 26 or 27. But as an adult, I look back at it like, ugh. You know, ugh. You would want me, like, as a 27-year-old woman, I would not want to be with a 16-year-old boy. That's unattractive to me. That's, ugh. With Robert Nighthawk, Ike used to play at the Red Top in Clarksdale and in the Harlem Club. He played all over Mississippi. Mark's, another club in Batesville, the Silver Dollar Club in Greenville. That's where we had to overhaul the piano every night before the gig started. John's nightclub in Denola, Ruby's nightclub in Leland, and Jake's place in Belzoni. Rocket 88 was a great success, but at the same time, huge disappointment for Ike, and not only because he made just $20 from the #1 hit. The featured singer was Ike's saxophone player, Jackie Brinson, and the record label was supposed to have read Ike Turner and the Kings of Rhythm, featuring Jackie Brinston. Instead, Jackie Brinston and his Delta Cats was printed. Ike blames Sam Phillips, who released the record to Chess. Whoever's fault it was, by the time it was released, there was nothing he could do about it. Worse, the band's regular singer, Johnny O'Neill, had already signed a solo contract with King Records. The other members of the band, drummer Willie Sims, guitar Willie Kizart, and Raymond Hill on tenor saxophone, began to squabble. Raymond Hill's mother wanted him to be the band leader, and the band started to fall apart. So I went to Memphis and found Hawk Crawford, Calvin Newborn, Phineas Newborn Jr., and Phineas Newborn Sr. They were the musicians Jackie and I played with after the band broke up. Then Jackie got a big head with me, and I said, fuck him, and went off to be a disc jockey or something. See, he don't have his facts right. So Ike Turner had a groundbreaking hit, but no money, no recognition, and no hand. But as Ike frequently observes about his life, there is no use crying over spilt milk. He moved to West Memphis, just over the Mississippi from Memphis, Tennessee. West Memphis is in Arkansas. Yes, living there allowed Ike to stay in touch with the burgeoning music scene in Memphis. He also played with various local bands in clubs around West Memphis. There was this white guy who drove a gravel truck. He used to park it around the back of the place I was playing at. It was a black club, and he would sneak in the side door and hide behind the piano while I was playing and doing my stuff. All that crazy shiz with my legs and all. Years later, Tina and I were playing the International Hotel in Vegas when this guy comes up to me in the hallway and tells me he was the man that used to hide behind the piano and watch me. It was Elvis Presley. That's where he got all that shiz from. Despite his influence on the development of the king of rock and roll, Ike is dismissive of his one-time disciple. Ike had stayed in touch with his old friend, Riley Blues Boy King, who was also in Memphis at that time. One day when BB was recording with Joe Bahari on Modern Records in the Sun Studios, Ike turned up. The session was not going well. Joe Bahari says the problem was that Phineas Newborn, who was on piano, was a jazz pianist rather than a blues pianist. And after repeated attempts to get the song right, Bahari said, cut, 15 minutes, motherfucker. I turned up on my bicycle. Joe Bahari was up in the control room with Sam Phillips. They were trying to cut You Know I Love You with B.B. King, and I was out there in the front just looking, listening to them trying to do it. So they took an intermission for hamburgers or something. They had the doors open. It was hot in there. And when they took the break, I came in and started playing the piano, just fooling around. Joe Bahari was in the control room and said, "That's what I want." Right there. Bahari was immediately impressed by Ike's talent. In fact, Martin had been in the running for Rocket 88, but Leonard Chess had got in first. It marked the beginning of an intense rivalry between Chess and Martin. Bahari employed Ike on the recording session, and Ike played on BB's first hit, 3 O'Clock Blues. Then Bahari said, "Hey, is there any more talent around here like you?" And I said, "Yeah, lots." I told him there were musicians all over Mississippi, everywhere. So he went outdoors talking to me. He wanted me to take him and show him where some of this talent was. So I took him down to Clarksville, Greenville, Batesville, and Marks, Mississippi, just a few places. And he listened to some of the groups, and he said, man, he was all excited. He said he would come back in 2 months and record. Then he went and bought me a car, a green 49 Buick, so that I could drive all over Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Florida and find talent. And then he said he would come down with one of his portable equipment and record. The Bahari brothers were giving me a salary of $100 a week every Monday. They could mail it from California. Then every Wednesday I would get another check for, say, $125 for my expenses. Man, that's $225 a week. The top job for anybody. I don't care what color you were. Down in Mississippi was something like $45 a week. That was a lot of money, man. And I had more money than anybody, more than 4 people in Mississippi. Ike and Joe Bahari hit it off immediately. Joe was a bit older, but the same size. Bahari kept Ike supplied with flashy suits that he had originally brought for himself out in Los Angeles, where Modern Records were based. So I went scouting for people with talent. Bahari acknowledges that Ike had a great ear for talent, but Modern Records did not have as much money to spend as he would have liked. So they had to move quickly. They had to go into town, record, play the artist, and get on the next call. Joe and Ike doubled up on their trips, making promotional calls on disc jockeys and record distribution. There were not enough hours in the day, but it was great education for Ike. He was learning the music business inside and out, and his songwriting output was prodigious. I wrote 78 records for the Baharis. Everything on the label that says TAUB. I didn't know what a songwriter royalty was. They gave me $100 a week, and that was a lot of money for a kid, as I said. And they gave me the car. It was enough to keep me green. In those days, it was not unusual to be paid a flat fee and give away copyrights. It was Ike who discovered Little Walter and Muddy Waters. Ike also recorded himself. He and then wife Bonnie released a number of songs on Modern. Y'all better stay tuned, goddamn. Let me tell you something. I didn't know that nigga had 72 bitches and didn't divorce none of them.